Asura is a demigod warrior of infinite rage, a being who feeds on anger and draws strength from that intense emotion. He was once one of the most powerful guardian generals, but betrayal and suffering have transformed him into the pure embodiment of wrath. The world he inhabits is powered by a form of energy known as mantra, a cosmic force that originates from human emotions, from prayers, from the hearts and souls of humanity. Mantra is the life force essence of the universe, a constant flow of light and darkness, containing 8 elements that represent the darkest manifestations of the soul: pride, lust, vanity, greed, violence, melancholy, sloth, and of course, wrath. Of these, wrath is the most powerful symbol, capable of transcending all physical and metaphysical limits. Asura's journey began when Gaia, the spirit of the living planet, was thrown into chaos by the broken cycle of life and death. The souls of the dead no longer returned to her, but were transformed into mantra, leading to the formation of an entity called Vlitra, Gaia's will to live, a gigantic creature beyond measure, created from the instability and chaos of the planet. Asura and the other demigods fought against Vlitra every time it appeared, but they were never able to truly destroy it. Vlitra grew stronger with each reappearance, driving the gods to the brink of despair. In that battle, Asura temporarily won with the support of Brahmastra, a giant machine made of pure mantra, so powerful that it could oppose the will of the planet. However, after that victory, he was betrayed. Deus, the commander of the guardian generals, and the one who once called Asura his comrade, set a trap for him, framing him as the culprit who killed the emperor. Furthermore, Asura's daughter, the Mithra priestess, who had the ability to manipulate and amplify mantra, was kidnapped. His wife was murdered, leaving him alone, screaming in pain. In his final moments, Asura was defeated and fell to Gaia in a giant ball of fire. His body shattered, but his rage still not extinguished. He was banished to Naraka, the equivalent of hell, where a mysterious golden spider whispered, reminding him of his vow of revenge. When his memories returned, the fire within him burned more fiercely than ever. Asura began his climb from the abyss, breaking all chains, piercing through the layers of hell, crossing time and space to return to the human world after 12,000 years. Returning to Gaia, he immediately confronted the wizened general of violence, who had accumulated mantra for millennia and was now far more powerful than his former era. Wizen mocked Asura as a speck of dust in his memory. But at that moment, Asura, filled with nothing but rage, crushed Wizen's pride. As Wizen absorbed millions of souls to transform into a planet-sized entity, unleashing a giant one-fingered attack to crush Asura, he once again surpassed his limits. 6 divine arms spread out, blocking the attack, then continuously unleashing thousands of punches like a rainstorm, until all his arms were shattered, leaving only one remaining. Putting all his mantra into one final blow, that punch erased Wizen from existence. The force exceeded 7 yotatons, equivalent to 7 septillion tons of TNT, enough to blow away the gravity bonds of an entire planet. Shortly after that victory, Yasha appeared, defeated Asura when he was armless and exhausted, and sent him back to hell. After another 500 years of slumber in Naraka, Asura arose. When he returned, he witnessed the massacre of a village, including a girl who looked exactly like his daughter. The culprit was Kalro, the general of Sloth, who had killed the entire village to collect mantra. Asura destroyed Kalro and the attacking fleet, but continued to fall into Gaia. At a hot spring, he meets his old teacher, August, who only drew his sword before Deus. The two fight on the moon, a battle that is so insane that Asura's rage drives August to draw his sword. The sword pierces Asura, sending him plummeting from the moon to Earth. But he survives, breaking the sword and ending the battle with a single slash. Tragedy continues when Olga, one of the 7 gods, throws hundreds of destructive bombs at the village. When Asura returns, everything is burned down. The pain causes him to lose his ego, transforming into Wrath Asura, the purest form of rage. His body turns to charcoal, emitting mantra to the point of losing control, destroying the entire enemy fleet. This power surpasses Brahmastra, a machine that has accumulated 12,000 years of mantra. Olga uses Brahmastra to destroy him, firing an energy beam that uses 3/4 of its full power. Asura blocked the attack, countering with his own mantra, proving himself capable of resisting the divine weapon. While Brahmastra was larger than the earth, Wrath Asura alone withstood the fatal blow. He then confronted Deus, who had betrayed him from the start. Though outnumbered, he joined forces with Yasha, using his new power to fight Deus, who had now fused with Brahmastra to form the entity Sakradevanam Indra, a divine form twice the size of his original. Deus's clap now had the power to destroy the planet, but Asura and Yasha overcame it all. His final fury blew Deus away, ending the era of betrayal. But the darkness was not over. Vlitra rose again, this time stronger than ever. He and Yasha entered the core of the earth to destroy this entity forever. Mithra assisted them. Together they overcame all limits, defeating the will of the planet. The final truth was revealed. The golden spider from hell was Chakravartin, the entity that gave the mantra, created Vlitra, manipulated all events. Chakravartin was not just a god, he was the creator, standing at the center of the Milky Way where all the stars were absorbed into his being. When he fired a beam of energy towards Asura, it took 26 seconds for the beam to reach Earth, equivalent to a speed of 30 billion times the speed of light. Asura dodged, advancing at a speed exceeding this speed, punching through the planets, stars, even galaxies thrown at him. The final punch, containing all the pure anger, shattered the creator's being. Even though he was blocked by a finger, even though he was knocked out of his wrath form, he stood up again, this time without transforming. With just pure rage, he threw a punch that shattered all dimensions, destroying Chakravartin completely, ending the cycle of suffering. Asura destroyed the creator, Chakravartin, an entity that had manipulated the entire universe and caused him thousands of years of suffering. As the last light of the battle between Asura and the creator faded, space gradually stabilized. The stars were no longer drawn into the Chakravartin's pull. The planets that had been shaken by the power of that confrontation gradually found their way back into orbit. In that silence, Asura's body, as large as a planet, slowly crumbled. He used all his power, all his mantra, all the remaining part of his soul for that final blow. Without a scream, without a moment's hesitation, he devoted his entire being to ensuring that his daughter's world would be protected. Mithra, his daughter, stood in the vast void, watching her father dissolve into cosmic dust. Her heart trembled, not with fear, but because she felt every fragment of memory, every last breath of Asura merging into mantra, spreading throughout the space, becoming part of a new life. Gaia, the spirit of the planet, rose once more. She sighed, feeling the end of the cycle of suffering. Mantra was no longer subject to the manipulation or greed of the gods. The energy now returned to its original state, a symbol of human emotions, pure and unpossessed. Yasha, Asura's friend, his rival, the one who had accompanied him to the end of the road, collapsed in silence. Though he survived, his heart bore a deep wound that could not be healed. He had seen it all. Pain, betrayal, destruction, rebirth, and sacrifice. He knew that none of the remaining gods could carry the burden of leading humanity. He turned to Mithra, placing his hand on her shoulder. From now on, he said, "You are the hope of humanity. No one is more worthy than you to ignite the mantra with truth, with love, with kindness." Centuries passed. The world was reborn. Continents, once torn apart by divine wars, slowly began to rebuild. People began to learn to pray not for blessings, but to connect with each other as they had connected with Gaia. The ancient machines of Brahmastra lay dormant underground, becoming ruins, testaments to the age of arrogance. Temples were built not to any gods, but to the symbol of wrath. A father who used his rage to protect his daughter, used his anger to restore peace. A legend was passed down through the generations, that if humanity once again dared to use mantra to oppress, if anyone attempted to usurp the power of the Creator, then from the depths of the universe, that rage would return. No form, no name, just one reason: to protect life, to protect justice, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. On another planet, tens of thousands of light years away from Gaia, a new life form is learning to harness mantra. In the deep sleep of the universe, a beat is heard, not of a biological heart, but of a spiritual vibration, soft, slow, but steady. Somehow, the remains of Asura have not completely dissipated. They have merged with the mantra of the universe, waiting for the right moment to rise. Because the wrath of fury never dies. It does not need reason. It does not need political goals. It only needs a cause great enough to be reborn. And when that happens, no god, no creator can stop it. Millions of years after Chakravartin's death, the universe has transformed. Galaxies that were once drawn to the chaotic center now shine brightly against the dark sky. The mantra is no longer manipulated by divine entities, but has become a natural part of life. All living beings on the planets can feel it as a subtle pulse in their souls, a faint light guiding them in the darkness. Gaia, the planet where all things began, has transformed. No longer a place where bloodshed is shed by power-hungry gods, Gaia has become a sacred world, where mantra is revered as life, not power. Mountains that were torn apart in war are now covered with jungles. Valleys stained with blood now ring with the laughter of children. But no matter how the world is reborn, the memories of the final battle are still engraved in every vein of the earth, every layer of the air. Huge white stone temples were erected at the center of the continents, bearing the image of a six-armed father, his face contorted with rage, his eyes burning like the Asura meteor, the immortal embodiment of wrath. Mithra, now transformed into a life form of light, no longer bound by the mortal body, continued to guide humanity. She lived on the border between matter and mantra, becoming the flame in the wind, a symbol of wisdom, compassion, and balance. Through her, other planets began to understand that mantra was more than power. It was an emotion, a belief, a promise between beings. But nothing lasts forever. From a dim point in the edge of the universe, an alien creature emerged, an artificial planet, constructed from the remains of Chakravartin's body. This entity had no physical form, but carried within it a new, mutated mantra, not of emotion, but of nothingness. A new entity was born from the ashes of its creator, Abitra, also known as the shadow of creation. Abitra had no consciousness like a god, no ambition like a human. It was a distortion, an echo of a power that had been defeated. From its core, streams of black mantra poured out, covering nearby planets, transforming the creatures on them into living machines that knew only destruction. Those mutated mantras had no emotions, no growth, no regeneration. They existed only to wipe out what was pure. Once again, the universe sensed the threat, and from the heart of Gaia, a pulse rang out. Atop the holiest mountain, beneath the stone statue of Asura, the earth began to tremble. Pure mantras were drawn to a single point where time and space became one. Tornades of light swirled in the sky. People across the planet knelt in silence, sensing an ancient power rising. Not with flesh and blood, not with the old body, but with the essence left from that last punch. Asura was reborn. His new body was not made of flesh, but from the purest mantra strings, gathered from the memories of millions of beings who had prayed in despair, cried for injustice, sacrificed for peace. 6 arms appeared again, but this time, they were not red with anger, but shining with silver light, like an angry moon. He did not need to find a reason. The existence of Abitra was the cause. An entity that did not know love, did not know hatred, only knew how to erase, was something Asura could not forgive. He rushed into space, piercing through the celestial layers, leaving Gaia behind. Every punch he threw in the universe left behind cracks in space, followed by meteors and mantra lightning. Cosmic storms formed around him, forming petals that rotated between galaxies. And then, he approached Abitra, a living planet, a giant eye without lids, looking at him with countless pupils that seemed to want to swallow everything. Asura stopped. Not a word, not a thought, just the first punch, resounding like a bell of judgment. Abitra's outer armor began to break, revealing the black mantra core that was spinning. Millions of mechanical creatures shot out like insects, rushing towards Asura, but each wave was crushed. Each of his blows was like a galactic explosion. The debris from the attackers' bodies turned into rain of light that fell on nearby planets, reactivating the pure mantra within them. In that moment, Mithra opened her eyes. She felt her father's anger. It was no longer the uncontrolled anger of the past, but a calm anger like boiling water under a thin layer of ice, ready to evaporate into fire when the time came. She placed her hand on Gaia's core. A silvery blue light surged across the planet. She channeled some of her power across the dimensions, connecting the emotions of millions of souls to Asura. From a distance of thousands of light years, they sang together not with words, but with mantras. Asura paused. The final blow was about to be delivered. He carried more than rage. He carried the dreams of the entire universe.